Hello, I'm Asha Reynolds. As a boy growing up in India, Sid Kapur was aware of his cultural responsibilities. But Sid's passion for culinary delights allowed him to sidestep these expectations. What he didn't realise was how this would shape his family's story. Sid's passion led him to Australia, and an important part of his journey has been at TAFE South Australia and Le Cordon Bleu, along with the relationship he developed with his supervisor. This is Sid's journey.
In India, we used to organize a lot of house parties. So, mom's friends, my friends, everyone used to come over. So, whenever they used to come over, I always used to help mom in the kitchen. And mom's the best cook ever. So, whenever anyone used to come over, she's cooking, I used to help her out. So, ever since that day, I kind of knew where my life is going because I've never been fond of computers or doctoring or anything. So, I knew as soon as I got into the kitchen, I knew that's my passion, and I knew that I wanted to do something in this line, whether it's in the kitchen or anything, but it has to be in the hospitality industry.
When he was in the ninth grade, he had to choose an elective. Now, the elective could be sports, computers, cookery, anything. And normally it's the norm that girls take cookery, but he chose cookery.
My male friends were always, why have you selected cookery as an elective? Why don't you come with us in commerce or something? Where's cookery going to get you? What are you doing in this course? So at that time, it was always, I used to think, should I go to commerce? Should I change my course? But then I said, no, cooking is my passion. I really want to do this. And there will be a time where my friends will tell me, well done. When I first got into the class, I saw that there were about 14 girls and I was the only boy. I felt a bit scared at that time because in school I was a really shy boy, and seeing 14 girls and me being the only boy was a bit scary.
My husband and I encouraged him to get into this cookery course, the cookery elective, and he was wonderful in that. In fact, he was awarded as the best student in cookery.
When I finished year 12 in India, I had a choice to study further in India or to come overseas.
We wanted him to have experience in the international cuisine because he was so passionate about cooking. So we jointly took a decision at home that we should encourage him.
What's 3 things that yeast needs to live?
I basically selected Australia, Adelaide in particular, as an option because I wanted to do hospitality. And Le Cordon Bleu, TAFE of South Australia, said to be one of the most famous and best places to do hospitality management.
When he was just about to come here, there were a lot of news in the media about Indian students being targeted in Australia. So that was a major reason for worry for us. So I came along with Sid. I was here for 2 months with him. And when I came here, it wasn't like what we heard in the news. I mean, it's a very livable city to live in. The people are lovely. We got a lot of help from his professors and lecturers. So basically, we're very happy that he's studied over here.
I would say for the first 1 month, it was really difficult for me because I've been used to living the Indian lifestyle for 18 years. The first thing that I noticed in Adelaide was that children don't live with their family. Once they're 18, they move out of their house, whereas in India, you live with your parents for the rest of your life. Even after you're married, after you have children, you live in one big house. Work-wise, in India, my friends, I mean, I'm 21 now. My friends are 21 as well, and half of my friends haven't even started working yet. I started work when I was 18. And according to the Indian culture, only when you finish your university is when you actually start working. So my friends are still in university and half of them haven't even started working yet. Whereas when I came here, the first thing that I noticed was people who are 16 years old have already got a job.
So I can see here, just from experience, maybe that water wasn't measured or maybe the recipe.
According to my course structure, in a 3-year course, we had a 1-year internship and a 2-year study material course. And according to the 1-year internship, they were split in 2 equal halves of 6 months each. We had a choice to go for an internship anywhere in Australia, and I chose Port Douglas.
When Sid went to Port Douglas, I was really pleased to hear that. I thought it's a perfect placement for Sid because it has lots to offer in Port Douglas and also lifestyle as well, which was good for Sid. Having the confidence, I think he was ready for placement. 6 months of pretty hard work, and to get out there and start applying his trade, it was good.
I worked in the Sheraton Mirage. I started off doing housekeeping, so that was my main job. It was a busy period because it was December, Christmas time, New Year's. Everyone were coming into Queensland because of the beautiful weather. I think it was 10 days into me working in the housekeeping department, my manager said, "I see something in you." And as soon as he said that, he just recommended my name to every other department. And the next day I had 2 phone calls. So they actually got me into the food and beverage department in 10 days.
When I was in India, I got a call from my brother Sanjeev, who lives in Adelaide. And he told me that he was going to have an open heart surgery. And he would be off work for about a couple of months. So he asked me that would it be possible if Sid could come back and look after the restaurant in his absence.
I spoke to my mom and dad about it. I was supposed to be in Port Douglas for 6 months, quitting in 3 months. I had to give the hotel a really good reason to quit in 3 months. The HR manager of the hotel was someone that I really got along with, and I spoke to her. Michelle Deeves is her name. I spoke to her and gave her all the details, and she understood my situation. I spoke about this with mom and dad. They were keen on me getting back to Adelaide to help my uncle out. So I left Port Douglas in April and I came back to Adelaide to help my uncle out.
Basically, there were 2 reasons of concern for us. One was that he would be cutting short his internship. What effect would that have? And the second was that at such a young age of 19, could he manage the restaurant?
I remember when Sid got back to Adelaide, he texted me and said, "Oh, listen, I'm back in Adelaide. Can I pop out and see you?" And just as this particular day, I was walking across the courtyard, and Sid was coming across, and we sort of met. And it was just by pure chance, I suppose. And I remember looking at him; he was quite emotional, I suppose. And he had a huge task.
So this is a boy who's been working for only 2 months of his life, and there was a responsibility of handling 2 restaurants just by myself because he was in hospital every now and then. So right from the shopping the meat and raw ingredients, soft drinks, beer, wines, making a wine list, making the menu, paying off salaries, making the financial statements, everything was actually on my head.
I think the challenges is Sid being 19 and being out on placement in Port Douglas, which is a wonderful location, then having to come back under such personal tragedy to deal with that, and then be thrust into running a restaurant and multiple restaurants, thinking forward and some strategic planning. That's a really big challenge for such a young person.
He was quite confident and very positive that he could do it. So we encouraged him and we went along with him and said, let's give it a try.
I said to Sid in one of our conversations, we really had to take account of, what's the keys to successful restaurants and what are they and how do they achieve those goals? And part of the challenge was for Sid to identify those key things that can make him different, the different and better, as we say, the D and B, and work out what he could do better than the other Indian restaurants and different, and apply those. And Sid, came up with some great concepts. He identified in India where he came from, there's a lot of street food, and what Sid had said that for him was very, that street food was memorable. It was a part of his childhood, it was part of his growing up. So what he said, I think this is a really good idea to try and incorporate this street food into the restaurant. And I said, Sid, this is fantastic. What a thing, Indian street food introduced into Adelaide. Your uncle would be very proud of bringing a new idea into Adelaide. So that was, for me, was great because he'd researched, he'd come up with something a little bit different, a little bit better, we thought, than a lot of the other Indian restaurants were actually, using in Adelaide at the time. And he got those things up and going, and it's become very successful.
Kitchen operations management was one of our subjects where we were taught how to cook, and that has actually helped me out just last month as well. So what had actually happened was our head chef in the restaurant actually had to run overseas because of a family issue. So he got a call in the morning and he actually had to catch the next flight. So there wasn't enough time for us to actually arrange for another chef. So my uncle just gave me a call and he asked me, "Can you cook?" And I said, "Yeah, I can try." So I went to the Blackwood branch and I just saw how my other chef cooks everything. I made notes. He gave me the standard recipe. He gave me what ingredients has to be put in whatever. So kitchen operations management has actually helped me out cooking as well.
After Sid introduced some of the street food concepts into his restaurant, it started to take off, and regular clients were coming back looking for some variety and different things to try. Sid came up with an idea that hadn't been tried before that he knew of in Adelaide Indian restaurants, was a buffet concept. So that was putting out a range of food out onto a presentation and have people come in and pay a fixed price for those goods. Sid wanted to highlight some of his street foods and things like that, so it was a wonderful opportunity. He got in contact with myself and a lot of his classmates who were some were still in Adelaide on industry placement, and they all come out to the restaurant. It was a really good success, you know. And we went back and we measured it and we sort of had a look at the success of it. Sid had done his due diligence and he knew that he needed an X amount of money to break even. Which he did, and he made some profit and things like that. And we identified there were some really good things which we pulled out, which are introduced into the restaurant concept and are still there today. And I think from time to time still does a buffet, but just as a special occasion type, point of difference marketing type tool.
So from the time that I've actually been managing it, our restaurant actually got nominated for the best Indian restaurant in South Australia, and we actually came runner-ups. That was in 2010, 2011, and between the years of 2011 and 2012, I was working in Blackwood because that opened up in August of 2011. And when I was working in Blackwood, our restaurant got nominated again for the best Indian restaurant. We actually came runner-ups.
When my brother came back, he was astonished that, a boy of just 19 years old could manage that. And he got a lot of feedback from the people there that Sid has done a marvelous job. So we're quite happy about that.
One thing I've noticed with Sid in his growth over the years, he still maintains this likability, I suppose. He's got a really infectious nature. He certainly has grown as a person. I think, thrust into some of the responsibility that he was at such a young age within the restaurants. Taking that theoretical knowledge and practically applying it has given him a better understanding of people and how people work and those sorts of things. So he's really, grown as a person.
I'm very, very proud of Sid. In fact, he was such a pampered boy who never lifted his clothes, just dropped them, and his shoes were never in place. But he's very matured, and I can see the difference in him now. He can make his own decisions. Though he's still a mama's boy, he comes to me for his little things, but I'm very proud of him because he's in Australia, but he's got that Indian culture still in him.
I'm not really good at time management. That is one thing I really have to learn. So just managing my assignments with work was one of my biggest challenges that I had to do while I was doing my course. Just time management was one of the biggest issues, and that is one thing that I haven't learned in 21 years of my life. No matter how much anyone teaches me time management, I just cannot do it. So just balancing assignments with work and other priorities was, I would say, one of the biggest challenges. But TAFE SA was one of the best courses that I've ever done.